Awareness of ignorance is the beginning of wisdom. Falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay where you have fallen. When the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. If you want to be wrong, then follow the masses. The secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Most people, including ourselves, live in a world of relative ignorance. We are even comfortable with that ignorance, because it is all we know. When we first start facing truth, the process may be frightening, and many people run back to their old lives. But if you continue to seek truth, you will eventually be able to handle it better. In fact, you want more. It's true that many people around you now may think you are weird or even a danger to society, but you don't care. Once you've tasted the truth, you won't ever want to go back to being ignorant. In every person there is a sun. Just let them shine. True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. He who is not contented with what he has, would not be contented with what he would like to have. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is a habit. I know that I am intelligent, because I know that I know nothing. There is no possession more valuable than a good and faithful friend. Sometimes you have to let go to see if there was anything worth holding on to. It is better to make a mistake with full force of your being than to carefully avoid mistakes with a trembling spirit. The greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be. No one can teach, if by teaching we mean the transmission of knowledge, in any mechanical fashion, from one person to another. The most that can be done is that one person who is more knowledgeable than another can, by asking a series of questions, stimulate the other to think, and so cause him to learn for himself. When you want success as badly as you want the air, then you will get it. There is no other secret of success. I call myself a peaceful warrior, because the battles we fight are on the inside. Silence is a profound melody, for those who can hear it above all the noise. Get married, in any case. If you happen to get a good mate, you will be happy. If a bad one, you will become philosophical, which is a fine thing in itself. Trust not a woman when she weeps, for it is her nature to weep when she wants her will. To believe without evidence and demonstration is an act of ignorance and folly. I know you won't believe me, but the highest form of human excellence is to question oneself and others. Do not grieve over someone who changes all of the sudden. It might be that he has given up acting and returned to his true self. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. There is only one good, knowledge, and one evil, ignorance. When a woman is allowed to become a man's equal, she becomes his superior. I am a fool, but I know I'm a fool, and that makes me smarter than you. What is happening to our young people? They disrespect their elders, they disobey their parents. They ignore the law. They riot in the streets inflamed with wild notions. Their morals are decaying. What is to become of them? Obligation sends the children to bed on time, but love tucks the covers in around their necks and passes out kisses and hugs. Yesterday is about experience, tomorrow is about hope, today is about transitioning from one to the other. The happiest people on earth don't have the best of everything. They make the best of everything. I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. The easiest and noblest way is not to be crushing others, but to be improving yourselves. Remember, no human condition is ever permanent. Then you will not be overjoyed in good fortune nor too scornful in misfortune. Do it because it's in your heart, not because you want something in return. Employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall gain easily what others have labored hard for. Improve yourself by other men's writings, thus attaining effortlessly what they acquired through great difficulty. The young people of today think of nothing but themselves. They have no reverence for parents or old age. They are impatient of all restraint. They talk as if they alone knew everything, and what passes for wisdom with us is foolishness with them. As for girls, they are forward, immodest and unwomanly in speech, behavior and dress. Our lives are but specks of dust falling through the fingers of time. Like sands of the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Do not go through life like leaf blown from here to there, believing whatever you are told. When I was young, I believed that life might unfold in an orderly way, according to my hopes and expectations. But now I understand that the way winds like a river, always changing, ever onward. My journeys revealed that the way itself creates the warrior, that every path leads to peace, every choice to wisdom. And that life has always been, and will always be, arising in mystery. We can do nothing without the body, let us always take care that it is in the best condition to sustain us. Young people nowadays love luxury, they have bad manners and contempt for authority. They show disrespect for old people, contradict their parents, talk constantly in front of company, gobble their food and tyrannize their teachers. It is possible that a man could live twice as long if he didn't spend the first half of his life acquiring habits that shortens the other half. No citizen has a right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. What a disgrace it is for a man to grow old without ever seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. Bad men live that they may eat and drink, whereas good men eat and drink that they may live. 4 things belong to a judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. The partisan, when he is engaged in a dispute, cares nothing about the rights of the question, but is anxious only to convince his hearers of his own assertions. In childhood be modest, in youth temperate, in adulthood just, and in old age prudent. If what you want to tell me is neither true nor good nor even useful, why tell it to me at all? The really important thing is not to live, but to live well. And to live well meant, along with more enjoyable things in life, to live according to your principles. My friend, care for your psyche, know thyself, for once we know ourselves, we may learn how to care for ourselves. Not life, but good life, is to be chiefly valued. It is not living that matters, but living rightly. The unexamined life is not worth living. The perfect human being is all human beings put together. It is a collective, it is all of us together that make perfection. One should never do wrong in return, nor mistreat any man, no matter how one has been mistreated by him. Man must rise above the earth, to the top of the atmosphere and beyond, for only thus will he fully understand the world in which he lives. Are you not ashamed of heaping up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation, and caring so little about wisdom and truth and the greatest improvement of the soul? Only the extremely ignorant or the extremely intelligent can resist change. You never know a line is crooked unless you have a straight one to put next to it. There is no greater magnificence than to defeat oneself. That is the magnificence. A system of morality that is based on relative emotional values is a mere illusion, a thoroughly vulgar conception that has nothing sound in it and nothing true. To need nothing is divine, and the less a man needs the nearer does he approach to divinity. The highest realms of thought are impossible to reach without first attaining an understanding of compassion. When you want wisdom and insight as badly as you want to breathe, it is then you shall have it. An envious man waxeth lean with the fatness of his neighbors. Envy is the daughter of pride, the author of murder and revenge, the beginner of secret sedition and the perpetual tormentor of virtue. Envy is the filthy slime of the soul, a venom, a poison, or quicksilver which consumeth the flesh and drieth up the marrow of the bones. Fellow citizens, why do you burn and scrape every stone to gather wealth and take so little care of your children to whom you must one day relinquish all? I have not sought during my life to amass wealth and to adorn my body, but I have sought to adorn my soul with the jewels of wisdom, patience, and above all with a love of liberty. It is better to be at odds with the whole world than, being one, to be at odds with myself. The understanding of mathematics is necessary for a sound grasp of ethics. The cure of many diseases remains unknown to the physicians of Hellas, Greece, because they do not study the whole person. In all of us, even in good men, there is a lawless wild beast nature, which peers out in sleep. No man undertakes a trade he has not learned, even the meanest, yet everyone thinks himself sufficiently qualified for the hardest of all trades, that of government. Be of good hope in the face of death. Believe in this one truth for certain, that no evil can befall a good man either in life or death, and that his fate is not a matter of indifference to the gods. Nobody knows what death is, nor whether to man. It is perchance the greatest of blessings. Yet people fear it as if they surely knew it to be the worst of evils. Whenever, therefore, people are deceived and form opinions wide of the truth, it is clear that the error has slid into their minds through the medium of certain resemblances to that truth. It is not difficult to avoid death. It is much more difficult to avoid wickedness, for it runs faster than death. A free soul ought not to pursue any study slavishly, for nothing that is learned under compulsion stays with the mind. I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young alike, not to take thought for your persons or your properties, but and chiefly to care about the greatest improvement of the soul. If you can do only a little, do what you can. What you cannot enforce, do not command. To know, is to know that you know nothing. That is the meaning of true knowledge. For a man who claims to have knowledge, while actually knowing nothing, is less smarter than you, who claim to know nothing. Be slow to fall into friendship, but when thou art in, continue firm and constant. By far the greatest and most admirable form of wisdom is that needed to plan and beautify cities and human communities. We shall be better, braver, and more active if we believe it right to look for what we don't know. Whenever anyone informs us that he has found a man who knows all the arts, and all things else that anybody knows, every single thing with a higher degree of accuracy than any other man, Whoever tells us this, I think that we can only imagine him to be a simple creature who is likely to have been deceived by some wizard or actor whom he met, whom he thought all-knowing, because he himself was unable to analyze the nature of knowledge and ignorance and imitation. Worthless people live only to eat and drink, people of worth eat and drink only to live. I am wiser than this man, for neither of us appears to know anything great and good, but he fancies he knows something, although he knows nothing, whereas as I do not know anything, so I do not fancy I do. In this trifling particular, then, I appear to be wiser than he, because I do not fancy I know what I do not know. If a man is proud of his wealth, he should not be praised until it is known how he employs it. In every one of us there are two ruling and directing principles, whose guidance we follow wherever they may lead, the one being an innate desire of pleasure, the other, an acquired judgment which aspires after excellence. Wars and revolutions and battles are due simply and solely to the body and its desires. All wars are undertaken for the acquisition of wealth, and the reason why we have to acquire wealth is the body, because we are slaves in its service. It is best and easiest not to discredit others but to prepare oneself to be as good as possible. Ordinary people seem not to realize that those who really apply themselves in the right way to philosophy are directly and of their own accord preparing themselves for dying and death. Besides, it is a shame to let yourself grow old through neglect before seeing how you can develop the maximum beauty and strength of body, and you can have this experience if you are negligent, because these things don't normally happen by themselves. Is there anyone to whom you entrust a greater number of serious matters than your wife? And is there anyone with whom you have fewer conversations? God does not deal directly with man, it is by means of spirits that all the intercourse and communication of gods with men, both in waking life and in sleep, is carried on. A disorderly mob is no more an army than a heap of building materials is a house. Wealth does not bring goodness, but goodness brings wealth and every other blessing, both to the individual and to the state. It is never right to do wrong or to requite wrong with wrong, or when we suffer evil to defend ourselves by doing evil in return. True wisdom lies in one's confession about the limits of one's knowledge. The hardest task needs the lightest hand or else its completion will not lead to freedom but to a tyranny much worse than the one it replaces. How can you wonder your travels do you no good, when you carry yourself around with you? Who knows if to live is to be dead, and to be dead, to live? And we really, it may be, are dead. In fact I once heard sages say that we are now dead, and the body is our tomb. Listen not to a tale-bearer or slanderer, for he tells thee nothing out of good will, but as he discovereth of the secrets of others, so he will have thine in turn. The reason why we have to acquire wealth is the body, because we are slaves in its service. Listen not to a tale-bearer or slanderer, for he tells thee nothing out of good will, but as he discovereth of the secrets of others, so he will have thine in turn. When you propose ridiculous things to believe, too many men will choose to believe nothing at all. For this fear of death is indeed the pretense of wisdom, and not real wisdom, being the appearance of knowing the unknown, since no one knows whether death, which they in their fear apprehend to be the greatest evil, may not be the greatest good. He is a man of courage who does not run away, but remains at his post and fights against the enemy. Musical training is a more potent instrument than any other, because rhythm and harmony find their way into the inward places of the soul, on which they mightily fasten, imparting grace, and making the soul of him who is rightly educated graceful, or of him who is ill-educated ungraceful. If all the misfortunes of mankind were cast into a public stack in order to be equally distributed among the whole species, those who now think themselves the most unhappy would prefer the share they are already possessed of before that which would fall to them by such a division. To use words and phrases in an easygoing manner without scrutinizing them too curiously is not in general a mark of ill-breeding. On the contrary, there is something low-bred in being too precise. But sometimes there is no help for it. The greatest flood has the soonest ebb, the sorest tempest the most sudden calm, the hottest love the coldest end, and from the deepest desire oftentimes ensues the deadliest hate.